This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Here is another practice that will speed you along in your spiritual growth. Surrender the pretense of knowing. The reason this practice will accelerate your spiritual growth is that it is exactly opposite your default. Have you noticed how much the voice in your head pretends to know things it doesn't actually know? It makes things up, and that's called lying. The voice in your head makes things up a lot. It lies a lot. This pretense of knowing needs to be seen and surrendered. For the voice in your head to continue to hold power over you, you must believe it. It must convince you that it's worth listening to, which it does by pretending to know things you'd like to know. Of course, this you that wants to know is the false self, but that's the setup that keeps the illusion in place. The false self pretends to know, and it is also what wants to know. All of this keeps you involved with the voice in your head. That you is the you that is lost in the illusory world created by the egoic mind, but that you is also waking up and discovering the truth. So you could say that there is a you that is lost in illusion, the false self, a you that is waking up from the illusion, and a you that has never been asleep, the true self. You are all of these. What a funny mystery this is. When you're unconsciously following your default, you are the false self. When you have more awareness and consciousness, you are the you that is waking up. And when you have completely fallen into the mystery and lost all sense of a you become your divine self. Examining your thoughts to uncover the ego's pretense of knowing is an important practice because this examination exposes the lies that hold the illusion in place. When those lies are exposed, the illusion falls apart, and what's left is the truth, reality, as it actually is. Reality is good, so stripping away these lies is good. It frees you to experience life differently. As long as you believe these lies, you experience reality as the ego perceives it, which isn't pretty. Suffering is largely the result of believing the voice in your head's made-up stories. When these lies are seen through and reality is perceived truly, what you're left with is peace, love, joy, and contentment. Life is good. There are several categories of lies. 1. Lies about the past. Thoughts about the past are rarely thoughts about the facts of an event. Instead, those facts are given a spin and told to yourself in such a way as to evoke an emotion. Thoughts about the past are in the form of a story that serves the ego's purposes, usually to shore up an identity or create emotions which further uphold the illusion. What you say about the past is usually a story you're telling about yourself, the false self. The false self is created and maintained by such stories. These stories are lies because they're incomplete. They don't tell the whole truth, and so they keep you trapped in a limited identity. 2. Lies about the future, pretending to know what's going to happen. The ego wants to feel in control, and so it assumes what the future will be, based on the past and based on what it hopes or fears about the future. These assumptions are made up. No matter how much experience these predictions are based on, or how much you want or fear something, they're still just predictions, not true knowing. The future will be what it will be, and that is entirely unpredictable. The unpredictability of life is very difficult for the ego to accept, and it copes by pretending to know things it can't possibly know. Some of this pretense of knowing is functional. It's best to assume that the sun will come up every day and that gravity will continue to operate. But it isn't helpful to assume that you know what your life in the future will be like, since life is in constant flux. Such assumptions are bound to make you unhappy. 3. Lies about other people. People pretend to know what others are thinking, how they feel, what they like or don't like, what they know or don't know, what they believe, how they feel about you, what they're going to do, and what they want or don't want. Your imaginations of others are lies you tell yourself, and lies you often share with others. You project these imaginations onto others and respond accordingly, as if they were true. 4. Lies about yourself. People pretend that they know who they are. They believe themselves to be a set of characteristics. They tell stories about themselves and believe those stories, and those stories often become self-fulfilling prophecies. You create a certain experience of yourself by what you tell yourself about yourself. Change your story, and you change your experience of yourself, your false self. Still, any story you tell is a lie, because it isn't the whole truth. 5. Lies about life. People pretend to know what should or shouldn't happen. They also pretend that something other than what happened could have happened. They pretend that their beliefs about life are true. Life is hard. Life is meaningless. Life is short. Life is great. But these beliefs are just more stories, more incomplete truths. What good are they? Life is a great mystery, is a story that reflects the truth that you don't know much about life. Some stories are closer to the truth than others, and so cause less suffering. 6. Lies about God. People often pretend to know what God is like and what God wants or doesn't want. They also pretend to know what is right and what is wrong for themselves and for others. But the mind can never know such things. The mind is just a computer, after all, and doesn't have any insight into the mysteries of life. For a belief to be true, it must be a fact. One reason you have a word like belief is to differentiate it from fact, from the truth. Notice how your ego holds its beliefs as facts. See that they are merely beliefs, guesses at what is true. If something can't be proven to be true, then it's best to realize that and hold that belief lightly, with open-mindedness. Beliefs are not facts, and facts are not beliefs. The truth is not a belief. So realize this about your beliefs, which are most of the thoughts that run through your mind. You'll find very few facts in your mind. The facts that do exist may be useful in practical ways, but they won't help you know how to live your life. If you realize the truth, that you don't really know, then these guesses at life aren't a problem. You can easily dismiss them and focus on what is true in any moment. What is true to do according to your heart, according to the force that is moving you, living you. Most of your beliefs are attempts to know something that you will never be able to know. You will never be able to know much, no matter how much you would like to. This is frustrating to the ego. It wants to know, and it can't. This makes it feel vulnerable, small, unsafe, and therefore angry and unhappy. The fact that the ego can't know creates lots of feelings, while this is just how life is. The fact that you don't know very much, and you'll never know much that you'd like to know, has to be accepted. Once you accept this fact, You won't need to pretend to know things, and you can relax into life and enjoy it just as it is. It is the resistance to the way life is that makes you unhappy. Notice how the ego resists not knowing, and let it do this, while you, the you that is awakening, enjoys this mysterious ride called life. It's fun to not know. Life is an adventure. Not knowing makes life interesting, while pretending to know only makes you wrong so much of the time, and that's no fun. You can have more fun if you admit that you don't know. The responsibility to know things that you don't know is a heavy burden, while accepting your ignorance is bliss. Admitting your ignorance allows you to drop into the flow and really enjoy life. But the ego won't choose to do that. Only the you that is waking up can admit that you don't know and choose the flow instead of the ego's made-up beliefs. Knowing that you don't know is wisdom, because that is the truth. There isn't much that you do truly know. Admitting that you don't know grants you access to your innate wisdom, which doesn't come from the voice in your head, but from the still small voice within. The wisdom for how to live your life is there, but it isn't where you think to look for it. It isn't in your mind, but in your heart, in your intuition. The knowing of the heart is a true knowing, but it isn't like knowing a fact, since a fact remains true always. The heart provides a knowing that is true for that moment, but possibly not for the next, and yet it is true. The knowing of the heart is experienced as an impulse to act or respond in a certain way, and feelings of rightness about that impulse. This is a knowing you can trust, because it isn't given to you by your mind, but by something much wiser that is beyond the mind, beyond the human. It's given by that which is living your life, the great force that is orchestrating this entire dance of life, of which you are but a small part. That force is dancing you, and that dance is the knowing. It is the only knowing you need. Everything you need to know for how to live each moment is already in your possession. You are always being shown how to move or not move. You never needed your mind's guesses, assumptions, beliefs, or opinions. Those have never helped you, but only cluttered this simple moment with unnecessary thoughts. Life is much simpler than it seems, and you discover this by surrendering your pretense of knowing. Such a simple thing, this surrender, letting go of believing you know when you don't. So spend some time examining how little you actually know, and then spend some time getting to know this place of not knowing, of just being here without any thoughts. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your willingness to awaken. I am with you always.